My grandmother was born and raised in Havana, Cuba in 1930. She was the second youngest out of 9 children and the only female. Her alcoholic father didn't work and her mother did her best to feed them, dress them, and keep them happy on the salary of a seamstress. They were unfathomably poor and often were evicted out of their apartments for not being able to afford the rent. The family moved around a lot as a result. She met my grandfather at the age of 16 and married him a little over a year later. My grandfather was one of 13 siblings. His family was also unfathomably poor, but he was a musician and an actor and had big aspirations to better himself and provide a better life for his future family. Late 1940s, early 1950s era Cuba was just as you'd expect it to be for a young married couple. She got pregnant with my aunt at 20, and during that time she had to face a startling realization about my grandfather. While she was 8 months pregnant with my aunt, she found him with another woman. In Latin cultures, it's commonly accepted that men will cheat, and it's the wife's duty to look the other way. She thought it was a one-time occurrence and forgave him. A couple of years later, of what seemed like marital bliss, she got pregnant again, this time with my mother. Several months after she was born, a woman showed up at my grandmother's door with a baby slightly younger than my mother with eyes undeniably the same gray-blue as my grandfather's. Again, my grandmother was heartbroken, but felt there was nothing she could do. You simply couldn't get divorced in Catholic Cuba in 1954. Her family and friends didn't see the problem. My grandfather was providing them with a home and food and a good life, so what if he was unfaithful? Stuck in a loveless marriage with 2 children and a man that was openly being unfaithful to her, my grandmother decided she didn't want to continue adding mouths to feed to her dysfunctional family. She didn't want to live an impoverished life of scraping by like she did as a child. She didn't want to have any more children, but the pill didn't exist. My grandfather refused to wear condoms, declaring that he only wore condoms when he slept with his whores and couldn't be expected to do the same with his own wife. She couldn't refuse sex either. Women were basically considered property, and that meant their husbands had more rights over their bodies than they did. So she did what she felt she had to do. Between 1954 and 1966 she had 33 abortions. 33 back alley abortions in Cuba, where abortions were illegal until 1968. She is proud of this. She saved those unborn children from hungry bellies, suffering through communist rule and living in poverty like she and her siblings had grown up. By the time she was 36 years old, her uterus had been ripped to shreds, and she had to have full hysterectomy. She had to go on hormones that changed her body, her face, her moods and personality. But she was thankful, because she wouldn't have to have any more abortions. Laws don't stop women from having abortions. Morals, or a perceived lack thereof, don't stop women from having abortions. Sometimes it's the most humane thing they can do, not for themselves, not out of selfishness, but out of selflessness. Out of a concern for a human that will never exist. They endure some suffering to prevent the future suffering of something else. My grandmother is proud she had 33 abortions because she did what she had to do to make sure her existing children didn't suffer either. In 1967, when my grandfather received the call that they had a way out of Cuba, my grandmother didn't have to worry about which children she would leave behind, like so many others did. They were able to all escape together as a family. They were able to come to the U.S., land of the free, and build better lives for themselves, and their children and their children's children, me included, were able to have better lives than we ever would have in Cuba. Thanks to science and progress, I have had access to birth control and safe and legal abortions my whole life. I was able to decide for myself that I don't ever want to have children. In fact, I wasn't held prisoner by marriage or antiquated laws or misogynistic culture. My grandmother had 33 abortions so that I didn't have to have any. When I see the current political tide turning the other way, and the laws that keep popping up all over this country, my country, the one that is supposed to be the land of the free, I don't think that the people passing these laws understand that for millions of years women have done what they feel they have to do, and they will continue to do so. Reproductive rights are human rights. Freedom to choose if, when and how we have children is basic human right. No one wants to have 33 abortions, but my 86-year-old grandmother says she has no regrets. In fact, she proudly tells people her story.